It's very dramatic music coming in because it's a very dramatic story. The James Webb Telescope is moving into...
It began like any other night. The stars, cold and distant, blinked across the vastness of space, each one a silent witness to the unimaginable. But then, something changed. A new light stirred in the darkness, not from the sky above us, but from far beyond it, from a world we've only ever imagined, from Proxima B. One moment, it was just another exoplanet, a speck of possibility orbiting a quiet red dwarf star, 4 light-years away. The next, it was screaming silently through the void, glowing with a brightness no one had expected. The James Webb Space Telescope, our most advanced eye in the sky, floating 1,000,000 miles from Earth, caught it first. It wasn't looking for a miracle that night, but it found one. The data was immediate, raw, and staggering. A sudden 270% increase in visible light emissions, flaring from the dark side of the planet. Not from volcanic eruptions, not from auroras or natural events. This light was patterned, pulsing, organized. It looked planned. Back on Earth in silent rooms filled with screens and sleepless scientists, breaths caught mid-sentence. The numbers didn't lie. These weren't random bursts. They were steady. They were sharp. They resembled something achingly familiar, something unmistakably human. City lights. That was the closest comparison they could find. Like the sprawling grids of Earth's metropolises as seen from space, shimmering against the black canvas of night. Only this wasn't Earth, and we weren't supposed to see anything like that. Proxima B has always been a mystery wrapped in shadow. Tidal locked, its day side permanently scorched by its sun, and its night side frozen in endless darkness. The dark side was never meant to glow, never meant to live. But that night it did, not in a flicker or a whisper. It came alive like an entire civilization had just opened its eyes and turned on the lights. No natural process could explain what the James Webb saw. The star, Proxima Centauri, was calm. There were no flares, no stellar tantrums to blame, no seismic activity, no heat plumes, no geological noise. Just light, brilliant, unblinking, unapologetic light. And behind that light, questions. So many questions. Was it artificial? Who or what had created it? Were they trying to show us something? Or were we simply witnessing a world in motion, indifferent to the fact that we were now watching? Imagine it. Imagine a civilization so advanced, so deeply rooted into their harsh, frozen world, that they could illuminate it, not by accident, but by design. Not as a flare, but as a way of life. Entire regions of that planet glowing not from survival, but from routine, from culture, from progress. Like us, but not us. Perhaps far older, perhaps far wiser, perhaps still struggling, just as we are. This wasn't a message. It wasn't a beacon. It wasn't meant for us, but it was there. And sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. This light, this haunting, beautiful surge, wasn't a whisper in the dark. It was a revelation. Not through words, not through signals, just presence. A presence bright enough to pierce 4 light-years of emptiness. And somehow, after centuries of listening, it was light, not sound, that answered our question. Are we alone? For the first time, we might have seen the answer. The news spread faster than the light that had traveled from Proxima B. Across time zones, languages, and belief systems, something stirred in us, a sense of recognition, a shift. For decades, the question of life beyond Earth had lived in the realm of dreams and distant hope. But now the dream had a glow, a pulse, a place. In observatories across the world, scientists stayed up through the night, not because they were ordered to, but because they couldn't look away. This wasn't just another data point. It was a heartbeat on a world long thought lifeless, a warmth in the frozen dark. The idea that somewhere out there, beneath that pale red sun, a civilization had endured, had thrived, was almost too much to bear. But it was there, and the implications rippled through every level of human understanding. Because what the telescope saw wasn't a message to us, but it was a story A story written in light. A civilization that had built something real in the eternal night. Structures that could create that kind of brightness had to be massive. Power sources that could fuel it had to be ingenious. And the intention? Unknown. Was it a city? A power grid? A signal? Or something we don't even have words for yet? One thing was clear. This wasn't nature's doing. This was the kind of light that comes from minds, from people, or whatever they might be, who needed to push back the dark, just like we do. Imagine standing there, on the surface of Proxima B's night side, the cold biting through the airless silence. And then, on the horizon, a glow begins to rise. Not from the stars, but from towers, from windows, from motion, from life. Streets lit for travel, structures warmed from within, shadows dancing across alien walls. A world alive while the universe wasn't watching. Until now. Theories emerged faster than the data could keep up. Some said it was infrastructure, massive agricultural arrays built to sustain a hidden society. Others speculated on energy collectors or fusion reactors. Some believed it was accidental visibility, that an expanding civilization simply grew bright enough to tip the balance and be seen. But a quiet few wondered, what if they wanted to be seen? What if this light was deliberate? Not as a greeting, not as a warning, but simply as a declaration. We are here, and we, us, sitting on this blue dot so far away, are now the witnesses. It was easy to forget how close Proxima B really is. Just over 4 light years. In cosmic terms, it's next door. For centuries, we've stared into the cosmos asking questions. But never did we imagine the first answer might come from the closest place we could look. Governments held closed-door meetings. Space agencies quietly shifted their priorities. Missions long shelved were dusted off. Suddenly, theoretical plans for interstellar probes didn't feel like fantasy. They felt like necessity. Projects like Breakthrough Starshot, once considered ambitious at best, now carried the weight of hope. Could we reach them? Could we see them up close? Could we speak? And yet a deeper silence grew too. Because what if they already see us? What if, long before our telescopes captured their light, they had captured ours? Our signals, our broadcasts, our planetary glow. What if, for years, we were the flicker on someone else's screen? Just background noise, until now. Now we're face to face, or at least light to light. And that realization carries weight, because we don't know who they are. We don't know what they value. We don't know what they fear. We don't know if they build in peace or prepare for something else. All we know is that in the void, where there should have been silence, there was instead the unmistakable presence of life, a life that has learned to shine. And as Earth spun quietly beneath the stars, for the first time, we weren't just looking out into space. We were seen. The days that followed didn't feel quite real, not because people doubted what had been seen, but because belief itself had shifted. Something inside us had changed. A kind of quiet understanding settled over the world. The kind that doesn't come from fear or frenzy, but from awe. From standing at the edge of something vast, and knowing finally that we are not alone. In classrooms, students stared at whiteboards that suddenly felt too small. In cathedrals and temples, prayers took on a new shape. In boardrooms and bedrooms, minds turned to questions they never thought they'd live long enough to ask. What do we do now? What if they are like us? What if they are not? And in observatories, scientists dug deeper. They stared into the patterns of the light, searching for cycles, rhythms, a language of flickers. Was there meaning in the way the brightness rose and fell? Could it be a calendar, a code, or just the steady hum of a civilization living its days in quiet persistence? Proxima B was no longer an abstract point in a lecture. It was a world we could almost feel beneath our feet, cold, silent, cloaked in night, and yet alive. If we had captured even a glimpse of their cities, what else might follow? What might we see next? Some began to dream of the impossible, a first blurry image, the curve of a skyline, the glint of structures not made by nature. something that confirmed not just the presence of intelligence, but its shape, its soul. Others urged caution. We knew nothing of their biology, their psychology, their history. The lights might belong to something that evolved in ways we couldn't imagine. They might not think like us. They might not feel like us. The glow could be beauty or warning, celebration or silence. And yet we felt drawn to it. Because what is more human than wanting to understand the light in the dark? Around the globe, people watched and waited. Social media flooded with theories. Some wild, some brilliant, all buzzing with possibility. The images and data were dissected, enhanced, reimagined. But even in the noise, something rare happened. A sense of unity. For once, we weren't arguing over borders or politics or power. We were all just small people, standing beneath a sky that had finally whispered back. Children asked their parents what it meant. Grandparents cried without knowing why. Somewhere, an old man looked up at the stars and smiled, remembering the crackle of a radio telescope in the 70s, and thinking, maybe we didn't wait in vain, because this wasn't science fiction anymore. This wasn't a story whispered into the dark, hoping for an echo. This was light, real, measurable, undeniable, coming from a planet so far away, yet now impossibly close to the heart. The James Webb Telescope had done more than look. It had revealed. It had pierced the veil of distance and silence and given us something more powerful than certainty: wonder. And with that wonder came the next question. Not are we alone, but what do we become now that we know we're not? Because in that glow, we saw a future, a challenge, a mirror, proof that life finds a way, not just to exist, but to thrive, even in places we thought were impossible. That intelligence is not Earth's alone. That maybe, just maybe, the story of the universe is not about one species on one rock, but about the meeting of minds across impossible distances. And so we wait, we watch, we wonder. Not with fear, but with hope. Because now, in the long silence between stars, we have seen the unmistakable sign of something more. A flicker, a presence, a home. And whatever happens next, we will never look at the night sky the same way again.